tell you.
Wood and the vendors and them so fierce. They just raise the price when something gets scarce. 90 cents a bunch of wrestle. Pak choy is $2.50 a bundle. 75 cents now for potato. Some places is $6 for tomato. Callaloo bush $1.50 in tongue. And carrot selling now $5 a pound. So if you brave to still go in the market, I could tell you that you're only taking basket.
So that was Lord Relator from 1980 with a song entitled Food Prices. So I have to give a shout out to Damien Phillip, who messaged me to let me know that Lord Relator have a song called Food Prices and I should play that. So I looked for the song and thought, okay, some of them prices back in 1980 kind of on par with what we have going on in 2021, but then some of the other prices ridiculous. So good evening. Good evening. Thank you all so much for joining and showing up. And I ain't gonna kill no time. I'm gonna jump straight into it. Let me put my guest on. Guest, you mute yourself, so I want you to unmute yourself. Nice. I think, yeah, I'm hearing you. So we have Senator Clarence Rambharat, who is joining us again from his secret location to talk about...
You sound like Senator Wade Mark.
Yeah. I find that's a low blow. That's so early in the interview and
I
already
sound. I didn't say you're behaving. I say sound.
That's all right. That's fine. Does he accuse you of being in secret spaces and secret places? Is that
No. He just accused us of not coming clean.
Of not coming clean. So, that is a bold statement coming from him. Because I would love to be able to sit down in a actually I must invite him onto the program. Because I want clean. Yeah. He could come clean and explain to me how exactly he got the privileges that he got when he had to sit that exam back in the day, because I can't get them kind of privileges, and I working at the University of the West Indies.
Well, I do. I work there, and I was a student there, and I never get that privilege.
Yeah, I never had those privileges.
Not that we needed it.
No, I mean I certainly don't ever need privileges like that. I exams don't faze me. Things like exams and examinations don't faze me. It's either I know or I don't know. And once I know, I will put the information as best as I can. And if I don't know, I will just not answer the question. That's how I am.
Well, I'm very much in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm very much live, and I'm in no secret location.
No secret location. Okay.
And if you no secret location.
Let me stop casting aspersions then. I want people to think, that I think you're at a secret location.
This morning I was in Chagaramas, and then Chaguanas, and then Cuba, and then Esmeralda, Maracas, St. Joseph, Orange Grove.
That's plenty moving around because, let me see, Chagaramas, then down to Central, then Chaguanas, if you went Orange Grove, Cuba. Orange Grove is on the east, right?
Yeah, Cuba first, Chaguanas, Cuba.
Right, Chaguanas, Cuba.
Then back up Esmeralda, which is in Cunupia.
I know where Esmeralda is.
Maracas. Esmeralda is when you're...
I know where it is. There's Hassarat Road. There's Hassarat Road on one side, and then there's Esmeralda on the next side.
Yeah, or in my case, there's Chaguanas East on one side, and there's Karen East on the other side.
Yes. If you're thinking about it from a constituency perspective, then yes, Chaguanas East on one side and Karen East, right?
Yeah, Karen East. Yeah.
Right, on the next side. So, you've been here before. We had a nice wide-ranging conversation the last time. And there are a lot of really interesting questions from the audience. I always find whenever I throw out the topic of agriculture, there are a lot of very interesting questions that has come from the audience. I've also been looking at a number of international stories, global stories, regional stories, and even local stories, because recently we had the head of a particular organization. Let me pull that back up. I need to pull up a document here to be able to say it was the Food Distributors Association. Michael Schwelt was on CNC.
We have one of that.
Yes.
But
Pres-
when pandemic started in here,
so
when
the
they were
pres
saying starvation and all kind of things,
well,
shortage and all
the
kind of
first
things.
time I hear about the Food Distributors Association was this week. He was
Where they
on.
distributing food, I want to
Well,
get some. I distribute food every Saturday. I want to join the association.
is you not nice? So he was on CNC3 this week, and he was talking about the cost of shipping. So now there are some things I know I can raise, and then there are other things that I can't raise because it simply does not fall under your portfolio. So if I ask you a question that does not fall under your portfolio, because I know there might be some questions here that fall under trade and industry, there might be questions here that fall under finance, there might be questions here that fall under foreign affairs, where you just let whatever you can answer, you answer, obviously, right? So let me get into these questions here, and in between wherever I feel my questions will make sense, then I will ask. So Kathy Hezekiah had a sustainable farming question for you. And she asked, how much are we focused on sustainable farming? And she gave examples like hydroponics, renewable energy, etc. And if there's any training going on with those things.
Okay, well, I wouldn't necessarily classify hydroponics under sustainable farming, and
Okay.
renewable energy on its own is not a form of farming. It's a way in which we could power farming. Sustainability. You know what? I am going to be frank with you. I have said to the country when I came in 2015, I say we in survival mode, because the fact is that I mean I really can't, I can't over explain this issue to people. But when I told you I was in Chaguanas this morning, one of the things I've done as minister is when I came in 2015, I discovered not long after I came in that there were a few thousand land matters which were approved by the cabinet, and the people for whom they were approved had no idea, and that is simply because there was a time lag, and in this case decades long time lag between cabinet approval and notifying the person. So when I thought about it, I said, well, listen, I am the one taking these notes to cabinet, and what I would do is that I would do a letter to the person, say, cabinet has approved your transaction, and I wouldn't just do it. I would personally deliver to the person the letter, and then I would deliver it in the full view of the country. And almost 7 years after, I'm still distributing letters. The thing about the COVID, this recent restriction, is that I haven't been able to do it in the way I was doing it before, having 40, 50 people all over the country.
So
But I resumed.
from 2015 to now, how many persons have you visited with
Well,
letters to let them know that they're
well, on
there?
the Caroni side, I first tackled the famous Caroni 2 acre visa program, and my predecessors were saying that they did thousands and thousands, but I think the audited figure for my distribution is maybe more than 8,000 instruments of title. And I did that substantially between the period 2015 and early 2018. In fact, I got to a point where I couldn't find 1,300 people and had to pay for newspaper advertisements and so on. And a few hundred came forward. We still have some that we're trying to locate. And in that, so you're talking about 8,000 handing personally, and in large distributions.
And those 8,000 persons that you have distributed those letters to, who would now have land.
These are 2 acre Caroni parcels.
Yeah,
only.
2 acre Caroni parcels. Yeah. So 8,000 persons with 2 acre Caroni parcels. Are they using the land for agriculture?
The bulk of them playing the fool, because before I did that, I said, if you don't get your proper title, you could complain. You could say, well, I do have my lease, I do have this problems with the lease and all of that. But I said, and from our side, we could not enforce the covenants in the lease if the lease were not either completed or in proper form.
So are they using the land for agriculture?
Last year we did 2 audits. Those parcels are divided between, some were developed by the EMBD. I would say about 4,000 fall under the EMBD, and about 4,000 fall under the Commission of State Lands. We did audits of the two, and the percentage usage. And I'm saying usage in the sense not at I'm saying there are signs of agriculture on about 16% of those lands. In other words, more than 5,000 2-acre parcels are not being put to use in any form of agriculture. And the percentage that is being put to use at 15%, I'm not saying it's 100% agriculture, it's just some form of agriculture. Now that falls to either the Commissioner of State Lands for land which are under the Commissioner, or EMBD for land which is under EMBD, to enforce the covenants. The one power I do have as a minister, regrettably, is the power of enforcement. I don't have the enforcement power. So they have been given directions to enforce those covenants. I am determined, because what I have said to the country, I was involved in the 2-acre and residential lot program in the Caroni VSEP. I was involved in the VSEP.
I want you to stick up in, because I'm trying to make sense of the numbers that you just gave me there. 8,000 2-acre parcels, right?
Yeah.
16,000 acres?
16%, about 15% in use.
Right, so 16,000 acres of land, and about 15% of that is actually being used for agriculture. And the purpose of the land, the
sole purpose.
The sole purpose of the land is meant to be for agricultural use, yes?
Now compare that to the farmers in Toko, Sangre Grande, Orange Grove. Orange Grove, a lease has never been given out in Orange Grove. And those are the country's productive farmers, Tabakita and those areas. So these ex-Caroni workers have not just been given a lease, they've been given infrastructure. EMBD did, just before the general elections in 2015, they expended 400 million on roads for one section of that project. Those lots, when I calculated, when we started off in Caroni in the VSEP, the money part of the VSEP would have been in the range of $500 billion at most. And when I calculate the value of the land for the VSEP and all the other things relating to the Caroni VSEP, we're up to $18 billion. When I calculate the value of the land for agriculture that is not being utilized, it's in excess of $10 billion. And I think that as a minister, I have a commitment to the persons in this country who would like to have access to land, would like to have an opportunity, and they just simply don't have the opportunity. That is when the money was flowing. We do not have that resource to develop lands. We'll develop some new lands. I could talk about that, but we have to enforce those covenants, and we have to redistribute those lands. I have said it many times publicly. I've given the instructions, and I'm committed to ensure that those lands are retrieved and redistributed to persons who can use it.
There are questions coming up here almost immediately from that, where people are asking, how do they get land for agriculture? Like, how do they go about it?
It's a very simple answer. I get letters almost on a daily basis. Any land that is available for agriculture to the general public, you access it when it is advertised. So let me tell you why land has not been advertised. There have been programs like this going back to 1960s, and the earliest distribution of agricultural land to the public was in the period 1950 to 56 under the first Minister of Agriculture in the Legislative Council, Victor Bryan. Came from the northeastern counties and did an excellent job. I must say, he was opposed to the PNM, of course, but he did an excellent job as minister. And I credit him with the development of places like Plomita and those areas. The next minister that came, Kamaluddin Mohammed, I credit him for the first sign of public-private partnerships and the development of the poultry sector in Trinidad and Tobago. And his work covered that area from Plomita, Beach, Rio Claro, and right down to Kunjal in Barakpo. The reality is that having done that work, for example, last year, Republic Day last year, I spent the day with farmers in the Kunjal what we call the food crop project, about 70 plots. They've never gotten a piece of paper relating to that land. That is from 1969, somewhere there.
But they
So that
continue to work the land and
they
produce
continue to
food.
work on Platinite and all those areas. Those people have not gotten anything. At the heart of the trust in agriculture has to be a solid tenancy. The policy provides for somebody to get a 30-year lease with a 30-year option to renew. That's 60 years. Talking about three generations having certainty, being able to make the investments and being able to develop the land. So we've had those projects, and then later on through successive government, every government had a plan to make land available to the public. The challenge with that is that not many have actually completed that in leases. I've said it so many times. Not a single lease has ever been granted. No minister has handed out a lease in Orange Grove. So my role as minister, and something will surprise you, and every time I say it, even my colleagues are surprised, because people sometimes say, I'm not saying my colleagues say this, but people sometimes say Rambharat giving away land, and then Rambharat giving away land to certain people, certain
I could say it.
demographic.
I could say it. Rambharat,
Yeah.
the people saying that Rambharat giving out land only to persons of Indo-Trinidadian descent.
Right. The
Right.
reality is this. I've been in this seat for more than 6 years. I've taken maybe 1,000 files to cabinet, maybe more, and there's been no new requests that has gone to cabinet, except those that come in the form of a PPP partnership. There's been no individual who has gone for a new parcel of land. It's been all renewals, regularizations, relocations, that sort of thing. And that is what I inherited. And that is why we've not advertised new parcels.
Right, because
uh,
someone was
for
asking where and when are the
because
advertisements.
because the backlog. What successive ministers did is that they introduced a new program, new applications. Um, Prime Minister Manning even had mega farm, and nothing. And the previous program called rapid delivery, accelerated delivery, selected delivery. It didn't result in the delivery of any leases. What I am doing with the support of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet is actually delivering documents of title
Can
to
we
people.
can we backpedal a bit to the role of EMBD and the role of the Commissioner of State Lands with respect
Um,
to enforcement? Because you were saying that
well,
you don't have the power, but do they have the power?
yeah, there's only one, when it comes to state land, there's only one person one office in the country that has enforcement power, and that is whoever holds the office of Commissioner of State Lands. In fact, the Land Settlement Agency would like to have enforcement powers on their sites, the sites under their control, their squatters, their structures. They would like to demolish it, and they would like to do things, but the law has not been changed to allow them to serve a notice or to demolish. It all goes through the Commission of State Lands, which is why there's this backlog, and that is why this, in my view, part of why this squatting is so pervasive. So EMBD is a limited liability company. Upon their creation in August 2002, they were created, and they were given an executive chairman right away, Mr. Rao, and the story of Mr. Rao is well known. And they were given what is known as a head lease for certain large portions of Caroni land. Some of those were developed into the 2-acre parcels, and some were developed into the residential lots for Caroni employees. And because they have the head lease, they have the power to enforce the covenants. So they could go through the process under the leases, and they have to serve notice to the person that they are in breach, and if the person does not meet the requirements, they can terminate the lease and repossess the land. So every year I've said I'm going to try to advertise some plots. We've been building a bank of plots as we go along. that we can advertise. I'm really hopeful I could do it. I could tell you what is going to be advertised soon.
What is going to be advertised soon?
We've, as you know, in Aripo livestock station, where we had a on you know on paper we had a 1,476 acre livestock station. We had maybe close to 200 employees working there, animals and so on. But there's really nothing that made a productive contribution to the country, to the point that they declared at one stage that was a research station. So they were researching, but nothing commercial or productive. And we had a very successful PPP process, and we found a partner, and that partner committed to invest $80 million of their money in the project. I was there with Honorable Prime Minister in July. That is after I responded to a motion from the said Senator Mark one night, when he raised my blood pressure in the Senate in my response, and and I said that they had already spent $22 million on the project. And Prime Minister and I went up to have a look at it, and it is amazing work. It is what the country needs if we are going to be able to provide a part of our protein through beef and goat and sheep. It is going to come from a private sector operation.
So what exactly is the nature of the arrangement with the government at Aripo?
We make the when I PPP, as we did, as Kamaluddin Mohammed and the government of that time did in the development of the local poultry sector. They made available what we had, and that was the land. So they made available the land to people who wanted to construct poultry pens to supply birds to the local poultry sector. At that time, we had the National Poultry Processing Company, which was eventually dismantled, and the private sector took over. And chicken processing, poultry industry in Trinidad and Tobago is controlled by private sector. And the other aspect of that, the eggs business, we're self-sufficient in table eggs now. It's in the hands of private entity. The duck farming, with one major producer, 1 million pounds a year on the market. We are self-sufficient in duck.
So we don't import duck and we don't import eggs. Is that what you're saying?
No, we import. We can import eggs. The thing about it is that not because you're self-sufficient means we have the power to block imports. But what we can do is that we can't compete against imported eggs and compete on the basis of price and taste and quality and so on.
Okay.
In the duck business, where we still import is in the area of Peking duck, but
Right.
Central Farm has been able to develop a Peking duck through its partnership with the largest duck producer in the United States, and because of the COVID, the full launch of that product has not been done, and they're investing $25 million in a new processing facility to facilitate the existing ducks that they process, and to also facilitate the Peking duck and to get into the export market. So the same model that we've used in processing, we've used for Aripo and all the PPPs. We have the land, and the land is not utilized. But every time you try to put it out there for private sector participation, there's always a story about giving to friends and family and so on. But the
Right.
people who say that, not responding to the ads, so what is going to go out in the next few days? There's an acreage called La Gloria in New Grant, which was where Caroni Limited had one of its buffalo herds. Very beautiful land, undulating land. When you pass, you'd see the teak posts to the barbed wire fence. When you when you're getting out of New Grant and into Tabland, that there were 3 massive buffalo farms on the Caroni. That one in La Gloria, which in totality may have been about 5,000 acres.
Right.
There's one in Ora Valley in Rio Claro, which is about 1,600 acres, and there is one in Monjaloo in Conopia, which is another maybe close to 1,000 acres. So La Gloria is there's 790 acres available that is going out for PPP, and what we're saying in the invitation is that we want expressions of interest for the entire site, or for portions of the site with a minimum acreage of 100 acres. So any groups could come together, young persons could come together, pool capital, pool experience, and put forward a proposal that we would give consideration
So that's
to.
for La Gloria. That's
La
that.
Gloria.
Right.
That is coming out next week, and there is another one in Mayaro, which Guayaguayari, which is known as the Guayaguayari Breeding Unit. It is where we received the young sheep and goat and made it available to the public. From there, I didn't see there were security issues one night. I don't know if you remember. The entire the entire herd was stolen and recovered from somebody in Pinal, thankfully.
Yes.
The animals were so traumatized, a lot of them didn't make it. But maintain the philosophy I have is that we don't need to have these breeding units all over the country. What we need to do is to have a strong breeding program producing the young ones for the farmers. And if you say to the farmer, your date for collection is Sunday, October 17th, the farmer will come by boat, plane, wherever,
Yes.
collect the animals, so that we don't have to maintain these satellite units. And the focus in terms of breeding, there are two facilities that I'm focusing on. One is the Centeno Livestock Station, known as CLS. I would like us to retain that. And there is one in Pinal where we're doing successful breeding and dissemination to the public. We're spending $5 million last fiscal, and we're going to spend some more money in the next fiscal to make that a much stronger place for breeding and distribution of the animals. So the Mayaro breeding unit, which is the unit itself occupied about 4.5 acres, and there's additional land, about 67 acres. We're going to put that out for private sector participation. When I say private sector, I mean an individual, an entity, or cooperative. In fact, it's
Right.
spelled out.
So it could be an individual. It could be a person. It could be a group of
trade
persons.
union,
It could
be a
right.
political party. It
But
could be
the
a
67.
group.
Well, I'll start a political party tomorrow and come and apply for land. Right. The 67 acres that you're talking about. What size parcels?
I
can
have
people-
that one is being offered as in its entirety. So
it has to be at
the
67 acres.
yeah, but we do in fact say that you put in your proposal. If it is not for the entirety, then we could deal with that. And if it's a proposal that we do not feel is suitable for that particular site, but is a good proposal, we also say we reserve the right to offer you something else. In fact, when we did a repo, the second placed person was offered a site in La Gloria, a 100-acre site. He had been an established farmer farming in Madras, a very very solid 350 head herd. It is very close to the flight path of the aircraft, so expansion and of it was going to be difficult. It was not recommended by Civil Aviation Authority, and he supplies canned organic meats. They supply organic beef to Massey and other stores, and they also had a plan to do lamb and lamb burgers and those things, and could not expand where he was. And as the second place person, he was offered a 100-acre site in La Gloria, and he is developing his acreage there while he continues with his animals in Madras. So we also have one coming out for Chaguaramas, where we have the National Seed Bank. That is where we produce the seeds for our
Right.
grow.
By Tucker Valley, inside Tucker Valley.
It is a vastly improved and more productive site. We've had water issues, so last fiscal and going into this fiscal, we're spending about $3 million to establish a tank farm, and also to restore a well that will give us a continuous supply of water there. And now that we've kind of given stability to the open farming, field farming to produce the seeds. I'm now going out for a private sector partner to develop a modern nursery for the propagation of seedlings for the public. It will be the type of facility that is privately run using technology, using what you would see in North America, the facility for people to do online purchases, delivery, pickup, and that sort of thing, and to also take orders for contract production of seedlings from farmers.
So we are going to be developing our own seed bank here.
Yeah, well, we have a seed that Chagramas is our part of our seed bank.
Somebody's asking if they're going to be heritage seeds.
The heritage seeds. Well, we the different repositories of the seeds, heritage seeds in Trinidad and Tobago. One of the main repositories, of course, the farmers and the ministry itself. But the National Seed Bank is being developed along the lines of the national site and the national repository for our heritage seeds. And I must say they've been doing tremendous work. But I must also say that having the public sector on rotation and reduced staffing and so on has been a good idea for stopping the spread of COVID, but it's not been a good idea for operations like our operations, which require people to be out in the field. We don't work at home, don't really work in this ministry. So a lot of our projects have really been delayed because of that. If the Prime Minister asked me, what do you want for the budget, I would say I don't need much in the budget, but I really want the public service to be back out to work. I really think that the public as a whole has had to make a lot of sacrifice in terms of accessing public services. It's been frustrating. Too many phones not being answered. Many of our projects, our road project, we had planned for last fiscal, the one that expired yesterday. We had planned a $30 million access road program that could not start simply because construction was not allowed, congregation was not allowed, you can't do site visits, you can't have surveyors out, those sorts of things. I would like to see everybody back out so that we could kick off our road program in the dry season, January 2022.
Minister, are there any other areas where land distribution is going to be taking place, or are those the main areas for now?
Those are the main ones, and I don't want people to be intimidated by this 100 acres. And I want to encourage people. You can't do it alone in agriculture. You really have to work together. And La Gloria represents a great opportunity. Guayari represents an amazing opportunity. It's a beautiful site. I am not going to be a bidder, neither friends and family of mine. I must repeat to people, I've managed to live a life in Trinidad and Tobago without owning an inch of land, having passed through 70,000 acres in Trinidad, in Caroni, and now as Minister with responsibility for land, all the land, including the seabed, and I still don't have a piece to call my own. And I expect to be cremated, so I would not even have a piece to call my own.
You're not even buying a little 6 feet parcel? Not even a 6 foot parcel?
My role has really been facilitating people in terms of renewals and straightening out their land business. And I am really, really happy. It's been slow. It's a slow grind, but I'm really today interacting. There's a lady, Miss Suratan, who told me today, she said, Minister, 40 years of waiting, and she said, you'd be long before you were minister. You knew my husband. My husband passed away along the way waiting on this land. And it is really a relief for people just to get that piece of paper in their hands. We're working on Brasso Seco, we're working on Paria, we're working on those areas, long suffering, people feeding us, but not a piece of paper. And balance that with people who came along. And I am not saying anything about my colleagues from Caroni 1975 Limited. They were my co-workers, and they were given the land, but they were not given it for vanity. They were given it for in clear government policy at the time, and in the European Union transition out of sugar that I also worked on, transition out of sugar, and the support given the contentious support given in the payment to cane farmers was to transition out of sugarcane into other food crops, and we've not done that, and the the by not having those acreages under cultivation, we see what could happen in something like a pandemic and what could
Yeah,
happen
I want to
in the
get
market
I want
now.
to get to that shortly, but let me ask you some questions from the audience. Brent Keane and Seth DeFreitas was asking about mega farms. Are we looking to revisit the idea of mega farms? And I'm asking,
Not under my watch.
not
I've
under
been
your
very
watch. Okay, good. So we
I've
could
been
move.
very clear about I've been very clear about my approach, and we do not need mega farms. We need mega farmers. What happened with the mega farms is that those were put out for public bid. People were selected mainly on financial capability. You had contractors who had extra cash from doing government contracts and so on. And none of those mega farms, even the two which were in the hands of a family that is a prominent agro-related family, and none of those have come on stream. The one plot, mega farm plot that is highly productive, is only because the mega farm, the person with the lease, allowed a real farmer to do the farming. So what I have focused on is mega farmers. We have people farming families in this country who could easily handle 100 acres, 200 acres, and those are the people who are mainly squatting, and we've been focusing on granting them their tenure. In this La Gloria is not mega farms. It's not. This is for farmers, and that's why I encourage farmers to combine and put in a proposal. And if your proposal is not selected for La Gloria for whatever reason, then we would give consideration for it to be cited somewhere else. So it's not on the basis that we need. You don't need, for example, pineapple. Pineapple is cultivated on 50-100 acre plots. You don't need a mega farm for that. You need a mega farmer,
Yes.
somebody who accustomed doing that. And in La Gloria, which
Enlarge,
is right
right.
right there outside of Tablan, the pineapple farmers are in Tablan. I am going to that area tomorrow for the specific reason of encouraging the pineapple farmers, because we've been in a battle. I don't know how many people know. Some unscrupulous pineapple farmers, what they do is that they clear the virgin forest between Tablan and Moruga. They've reached almost Moruga. They've been doing that without um, any interference by the forestry division. I've been down there
So
myself with forestry division.
there isn't a lot of sustainable farming that's taking place in the country then. If you're saying that
Well,
people are
well,
clearing the
I'm not
forests in
saying
a.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying. I think that most farmers do a decent job in terms of sustainability. You have some bad behavior. I've talked about it, like the Aranguez farmer throwing the empty fertilizer bottle on the riverbank. So you go there and see 1,000 plastic bottles. You have issues with chemical runoff into the water stream and so on. But by and large, people have been farming sensibly in the country. The pineapple farmers, many of them do work hard and they do a very good job, but there are some, and they know themselves, who've been clearing the forest and going into virgin land. And when you clear natural forest, you have high quality of soil there. You have fertilizer in the form of the rot that could take you through 5 years easily. But I've been talking to some of the guys, and they've expressed an interest in getting into alternative. I've also been encouraging them to. They've been doing pineapple on the undulating land. Pineapple could grow on flat land, so we've been talking about it. And pineapple is 80% in Tablan now, but we have other parts of the country, Caparo and those areas. I've seen some flatland brought into pineapple, not massive amounts, but good enough. In fact, one of the best pineapples I've tasted in 2021
Well,
comes from
I remember you talking about
Santa
it.
Cruz. Yeah,
Yes,
Santa
Santa
Cruz
Cruz.
and
You talked about Nean Gadsby, Dolly's
yeah,
constituency
Santa
producing a.
Cruz and Todd Road. So
Right.
I really want the pineapple farmers to be more sustainable, and once they can do that, then we have people who are in position now to do the agro-processing. You know,
So right, right. So
bad news
you
bad news travels fast, but we had an Express article about 60 million private sector facility in agro, and nobody sent me the article.
okay. So so let's get to the agro processing part of the conversation now, because you're saying we're talking about all of the farming that's taking place. We're talking about the food that is being produced, and we're talking about the quantities that they're being produced in. But how much agro processing is going on? Someone here is asking, what about the plan for the processing plant in Maruga? So what?
Well, I'll talk about that now. Now, you have to do things in a systematic way, and I know some people find I'm very slow, but I'm very methodical. Um, the the market must be there, and I am satisfied that there's a lot of interest in Trinidad and Tobago in supporting local. I'm satisfied that there are enough people in the restaurant trade and the supermarket trade. The forex squeeze has really been a factor. But I think they also in the shipping and the pricing
How much of a
constraints.
squeeze? How much of a factor, rather? How much of a factor has the
I think
forex
is
squeeze been?
significant. I think is significant. I think
Okay.
it's significant because if I was in the restaurant business, of course, the, the, the the food in the world is controlled by about 10 big entities, and they they grow, put in a plastic bag, fast freeze, and ship. That is the business they're in. And you're in a restaurant and you want you want anchovies, you want this, you want that, whatever. It's just a bag. Some of it comes pre-cooked, and they use different brands, but that is what they do. So on the seafood side, on the fruit, the vegetables, you want to make your smoothie, you open the fridge and you have something from wherever. We have to match that in terms of convenience, availability, reliability of quality, and so on. And once that demand is there, then you must have the processing, and you must have the capacity to grow. So the real test for me has been in two areas. One, COVID came, and people were home, and so many things came down to zero. But agriculture was given a chance by being declared an essential service.
Right.
And our farmers responded. The markets were kept open, and they responded. And I like what you said in relation to Relators Calypso, because when I think about it, we pay in some of those prices.
No, we
prices
still are,
still.
because one of the things he said in the song is lime was 95 cents, and I'm there thinking, well, I only paid $1 for a lime last week, so I mean a 5 cents difference is not bad.
I pay like 80 cents last week.
Where you shop last week? I was in Namdefco Market in Dago Martin.
Yeah, well, it's all a question of where and when. So that
you get a 15% discount because he's a
I
minister.
tend to buy. No. I get that 15 because I'm smart. I shop during the week. I go to Namdevco Market in Queens Park on a Saturday for okra and cucumber from the fellows from Bridgestown and some other little things. But during the week, I do a lot of shopping while I'm on the road.
Okay.
And places like Kunupia and those places, and depending on the time and the farmers you buy from. I know not everybody has that luxury, but I think you have to shop around, and you have to try to avoid the temptation of a need bygone is $15 and need it. No, you could wait on your bygone. I'm sure you could wait on your bygone, and the price is demand and supply, but the processing and the packaging, the freezing, the chilling will moderate demand and supply. And what the farmers showed is that even under the restrictions, they were able to keep us fed. There's no question about that. Access to markets, but the real sign of confidence for me came from the fact that when the Minister of Finance announced, after the Prime Minister announced that May we were going to do 25,000 packages for 25,000 families, and the Minister of Finance came a few days later and said, well, we're going to do it May, June, July, August, September. At the end of August, I reported that we had bought in Namdevco 5 million pounds of produce from over 300 farmers. We paid out at that time a little over 30 million to local farmers. We paid out about 7 million to local poultry producers, and it's from across the country. And
No.
think about it, in that period, you didn't see shortages in the regular market. You didn't see
No,
prices going
you
up.
didn't see
Now the
shortages, so
central bank,
the farmers were able to provide.
yeah,
As we're talking about the food baskets, I want to ask this. Those food baskets would have been provided to persons, and they would have been provided to persons who would have been in need, right? And throughout the various constituencies. But when you provide a food basket like that to persons, they are in need. What they get is what they will prepare and what they will cook because of what is in the food baskets. And the food baskets, I saw them; they were amazing. I put pictures up, and they amazing produce in the basket. But the rest of the population who didn't have to rely on a food basket, we're still trying to shift their tastes towards purchasing in a particular way. So I
yeah.
don't know if, as the line minister for NAMDEFCO, if you have a sense of how much of the population is accessing the produce being put out by our farmers.
Well, you could see it in the markets. We've been able to open two new farmers markets during the COVID period. We opened at Larry Gomes Stadium in Malabar, and we've just moved this site to accommodate more farmers, and we opened in Corinth in South, and we've shifted that to Taruba, and I've reported that the the sales, the volumes in the wholesale and farmers market were not disturbed by the COVID restrictions. So while business fell off across the country, the purchases in those markets were sustained. And then you see the proliferation of roadside vendors and people selling from their trunks and people selling all, and private farmers markets have come on stream, and you see the availability. So I have no doubt that and you see many of the supermarkets, including the True Values and the Macy's, you see them having local produce on display. Sometimes the prices are all right, but the fact is that the production, you want to know that your farmers could produce, and now that we know farmers could produce, we are continuing our food basket distribution, sanctioned by the Ministry of Finance. We continue it into this financial year. But now that those farmers, we're working, what we have now is we have a pool of just over 300 farmers who we know can produce consistently to satisfy a particular demand. We've decided to select that pool to work on the voluntary gap certification, on which is replacing NAMDEFCO's farm certification program, and we're going to use that. So that is like the centerpiece of the production, and then we're going to add farmers to that for the purpose of feeding into the agro processing. Now we have one new purchaser on board. So this is Novo, and they are producing the Life brand. They have contracts with Massey and other people. They're doing packaging. It's an amazing $60 million facility, 60 million private sector money in that facility, state of the art technology, and they are going to be taking, NAMDEFCO is going to direct farmers' production to that facility.
And Novo is going to be doing what? They are going to be processing? Okay.
Yeah, they have their contracts to process. So if you invest,
what are they going to be processing? Like which
if you
item?
invest right now, they have pumpkin, they have cubed pumpkin, cubed coconut, grated coconut. They have a variety of salads. They have a coleslaw product. The only imported item I've seen so far is carrots in the coleslaw,
Right.
and cubed carrots in a separate. But they're gonna be in the range of cassava, sweet potato, everything. They're gonna do fries using a different method. We've seen the cut up sweet potato to make fries, and it didn't do too well in the market. Then we've seen fries that use the one from 360 degrees, use the where they boil and they extrude and in the shape of the fries, and you have that. But
Right.
they're gonna go do cut up with skin on, and they're going to it's available, and they're going to do it through the retail outlets that they supply. So there's going to be a significant amount of demand coming from there as they get into high gear. And I'm making the point that this is their $60 million they invested, so that they're the ones looking to for return on their investment. And that is what, when you say they have skin in the game, but they're going to be fully supported by us in terms of directing and growing the farmers, assisting the farmers in being able to meet the demand. And that will be another group of farmers. Now, there's in the Moruga. Somebody asked about Moruga.
The processing plant
I
in
met with the
Moruga.
main. Right. I wanted to remind people that that is not a processing plant. Those are shells which are designed for agro processing equipment. There's no equipment in there. The people who lease the shells are going to put in the equipment that they will use in their agro processing. So I was with one of the main investors in one of the shells last week. We were talking about, and that person is, I think, eminently suitable, prominent businessman, not in agriculture, but he has linkages to the ownership of some of the more prominent restaurants in the country, and I think it is a good way in which our farmers going to really get a solid footing
Have you
in the restaurants.
have you seen any impact? I mean, we're discussing all of this farming activity. Is it reflecting in our food import bill?
I do it is, but not about a year into my portfolio, or a year and a half, I was asked a question about the food import bill, and I said it was reduced by $1 billion. And I said I take no credit for it because it was really on account of the forex squeeze. But part of it had to do with the farmers market, which were coming on stream, and some of the changing attitudes. But I don't think that really took off until COVID come. And in COVID, I really saw some data last week which shows that home gardening, for example, increased by 41% during the COVID period in Trinidad and Tobago, and other things, other data which has, and just being out in the public and getting the sense that people have a serious commitment, and young people in particular. I always talk about that they have a value system that drives them towards healthy eating and sustainability and supporting farming families, and they love a good story in the food. I think the young people, more than anybody else, they're going to make the serious dent in consumption pattern, and in supporting what we produce. So it's going to come incrementally. I don't judge it by the food import bill, because I mean, if rice and flour oil went on the global market by 15%, your food import bill is going to increase. I really judge it by the attitudes of the restaurants, the supermarkets, and the general population, in terms of not supporting local, but changing their consumption patterns. And I also judge it by the attitude of the private sector, willing to risk and not saying to the government, well, you build it and we will buy from you, or that sort of thing. They're really in a position to invest. I want to also say that my colleague, the Minister of Health, we've been talking really about the state needs to impact itself. The two big purchasers of local produce are the RHAs and the Defense Force. We've talked about that. Every farmer grows up wanting to supply to the hospital or to the Defense Force or school feeding. There must be a middleman to do that. There are middlemen, by the way. So we've been working on the data, collating the data in terms of the RHAs. Every health facility in this country does their own cooking, with the exception of the COVID catering, which is done externally. But every health facility has a kitchen, and we don't want to disturb that. What we want to do is that we want to supply, as required, the ready to cook material for the meals. So we collating the data in terms of what they buy, when they buy, purchases, what they price, and we're gonna NAMDEVCO is going, well. Hopefully they accept NAMDEVCO as the aggregator that is the middleman, putting that into the kitchen for the purpose of cooking. I also think it will help them in inventory management, cost management, reduction of pilferage. It will help them in terms of staff management, in terms of being able to focus the staff and not, you don't have to have people peeling and cutting up and boiling and doing this, and controlling the nutritional quality of what is offered in the hospital. I mean, if you're not offering healthy, nutritious food in the hospital, well, boy, you're in a real
Something
big
wrong.
problem.
Yeah.
You're going to do the same thing with the Defense Force and ultimately the school feeding program. The challenge with school feeding is the number one meal in school feeding is, you know what, Rhoda?
I know what it is. Listen, I used to teach at the secondary level, so it's basically the day that there's curry, roti and
Roti day.
roti day. Yeah.
I don't blame them, right?
I don't blame them either, because I mean, once you get enough good.
I feature Marriott roti. Yes, 11
Yes.
is a real bad roti, and I like a good roti. I like a good doubles too. By the way,
I like a good roti. I like a good doubles.
But,
and if
I featured today a nice pepper sauce from Liana.
Yes, I saw the pepper sauce. So, Minister, I want to ask you this.
Liana is onto something there.
I saw the pepper sauce, and so I'm gonna look for that pepper sauce. Now, you have been with your social media, pushing a lot of what is happening here locally, what is being produced locally. When are you and your ministry going to do that in a more national way, in like a larger campaign? Because it needs to be a larger campaign.
It's been a learning experience for me too. You know, as a parent, I had to remind my children when at a certain point I said, yeah, I remember I was learning too, you know, and some of the attitude I show earlier. Yeah, I remember I was learning too, and you know, even in this job, I have been learning. I came in knowing some things, and the farmers have taught me some things, and one of the things is that you've seen me in my posts say a lot of times. I don't need to tell you. You learn nutrition in school. You learn what should be on your plate. Oh God, man, I don't have to tell you that. Why do I teach you that? But earlier this year, when I really thought about it and I saw the questions and I saw what was happening, and I said to myself, you know, people have been bombarded by so many things: keto diet, intermittent fasting, this, that, so many things: protein good, protein bad, carbohydrate good, power bad, all kind of things. And I really went back to my learning and some of the research I've read. I went back to all of them, and I realized that it has become far too complex and controversial and chaotic for people. And I really think that we need a national campaign on eating, and
we do.
And my colleague I know is committed to do it. I mean, in COVID, it's difficult to run too many things at the same time, but I know he's committed. I know Minister Nayan Gadsby-Dolly is committed. I know a lot of the cooks and chefs around the country are committed to help it. So I hope we could do it in this fiscal year, not as a policy measure or something, but really as a frank.
I'm not thinking about it as a policy measure. I am actually thinking there's a way in which how you have gone about talking about food and food culture. I mean, it's almost like a food anthropology that happens with your posts, right?
Yeah.
And you're educating people about where the food comes from, how you are eating, how you are cooking on some days. I mean, some of the pictures you put up as be like, but how we come up with them combinations, boy? And then as lawyer, right? As lawyer with some of the combinations in them. But I feel that it is useful if we're looking at shifting our eating habits and how we look at food and our relationship with food. Something like that needs to happen, and I can't wait on the private sector to do it, because the private sector is still very reliant on using a lot of imported food, and you are promoting using locally grown food. So I feel the state has to push the program, the campaign.
I think that you know, where I've landed is a few things. Now, what I know for a fact, and I know two things for sure: that you don't lose weight in a gym, and 90-something% of people who go on diets fail. And I think that the reason I've gone back into the history of eating, for example, food and so on, is that to just make the point that the flour, for example, I mean, I must say flour is really my enemy, and that is as genetic, lifestyle, ethnicity too. We have. I was happy to see the research on the sugary drinks, for example, deal with deal with obesity in the context of ethnicity, because we do
Right.
in fact have certain risk profiles based on ethnicity, and genes, but also job and lifestyle, so that if we say zero flour, nobody in Trinidad and Tobago could maintain that. Nobody. I
I
challenge
can't.
anybody.
I can't.
Yeah, you,
I
you, you
can't.
must. You can say Akai roti or
No,
Akai
no, no, no,
doubles.
no. I don't.
I didn't tell people doughy doubles and I say
I
do
don't
it for
fool
breakfast,
myself.
lunch, and
I
dinner.
don't fool
You
myself at all.
can't,
I
right?
can't.
So
I truly can't. I
we
cannot
we
give
must
up
have
flour.
so that what I say is that, and I'm not an expert. I just say, yeah, what you could enjoy everything, but you must know what food does, what carbohydrates do, what protein does, what fats do.
Eh. Just so. The minister lug himself out. Oh my word. So for those of you who are just tuning in, we have been having a long conversation with Minister Clarence Rambharat about food and agriculture and processing of food and all of those things. Let's hope he logs back in so that he can make his closing statements, because it's 8 o'clock and it is actually time for me to wrap up. No, I didn't put the man on a timer, Seema. And the man log himself out. I don't know what it is he touched. Oh my word. Hopefully he calls back in soon. I don't know what is went on there. Actually, maybe I should. But yes, I'm seeing some of the comments there about moderation, everything in moderation. Yeah, everything in moderation. You can't have too much flour, but I'm hoping that we see the importance of growing food locally and eating food locally, and the necessity for shifting and changing our diets. I am hoping to be able to get into a more intense discussion, not just with Minister Rambharat, but also maybe the Minister of Trade and Industry, to look at the impact that global imports will be having on food prices. But this was a conversation that I wanted to. This was a conversation. I mean, his image is not showing up. Minister, your image not showing up. He's calling back in, but his image is not showing up. I'm going to kick him back out the room so that he could try and come back in. Yeah, this is a conversation I wanted to start to have just around the time of the budget, because I know food prices, the budget, foreign exchange, all of these things are going to be talking points in the upcoming weeks. And I feel that the best way for us to be able to discuss it in, a mature, responsible way is to start by having these having these exchanges. Minister, your laptop giving problems. Oh wait, just now. Right, you're in. Unmute yourself. Unmute. Right. Senator, you're trying to give me self-esteem problems just so you just duck out on me. I'm not accustomed.
No. They say somebody say put me on a timer. Say you must be the first woman to do that.
Well, I was about to say, you see first man duck out on me, so first time for everything.
Boom. Of course.
Anyhow, so let me. I mean, it's time for us to wrap up. So your closing comments, because I feel I'm gonna have to bring you back because there's so many questions that were raised.
People asking about land. They're asking about Brothers Road. Yeah. So we could wrap up and I'll come back.
All right, good. Well, then that's what we'll do. Thank you so much for spending time with us this evening. And yes, I will have you back in the course of the Standing Finance Committee when you don't have to answer line item questions. I'll bring you back and we will finish up this conversation. All right?
Great. Wonderful.
Okay. Take care. Enjoy your evening. Bye. Right, so that was Senator the Honorable Clarence Rambharat, who would have been engaging us with questions about food and, food prices and food production and any number of other issues that would have come up there. Land tenure, people who have land, people who have gotten land and not using land for agricultural purposes, EMBD, Commissioner of State Lands. So we're going to have him back. And we're going to finish our conversation. So I will see you all soon. Sunday, I am going to be having a conversation with Vasant Bharat about the economy just before the budget. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.